I'm not picking a side or expressing a view on today's subject, but rather using the results found within the example as another sign that our democracy is in trouble. And if we wish to preserve democracy, why we cannot continue to allow our elections to be decided by the abusive, illiterate X-only ballot system. It is our voting system I condemn, and the examples I use are meant only to show how fickle are humans. Me too. And to show how foolish it is to totally trust strangers with our life, our freedom, and our peace of mind, even when that stranger is highly educated, or rich, or a celebrity. And here comes the kicker. We base that trust on the simple fact that that stranger decided to run for office and got elected. Headline: United States Supreme Court split 5-4 on gay marriages. This proves one more thing. There is no such thing as a no-brainer when it comes to people activities. Each judge sitting on the bench of that Supreme Court is highly educated, well-respected interpreter of the law. Yet they could not agree on this issue. Regardless of which side of this issue you are on, you probably called this a no-brainer. If these educated people cannot agree on one specific human activity that will affect thousands, if not millions, why then do we trust politicians to continually make decisions for millions daily without our having a tool or method to control them when needed, to correct their mistakes when needed? Governments, like the Supreme Court, must intervene on many issues, not just gay marriages. And like the issue of gay marriages, their opinion of what's best, of what's right, is often split, because making decisions, legal and political, is influenced by the personal experiences, religious beliefs, culture, gender, and education of the person asked to make the decision. Not supposed to be, but if these factors didn't influence them, then they would be robots, not people. I was asked by a political science professor if I thought the elite should run the country. I said yes, and tentatively still believe that, but here is why I waver. Here are 9 elite, and they can't agree on this one human activity. Governments are no different. They are always split, and the worst of all the worst. We just sit, letting them make all the decisions, and then we pay, because we do not have a safety valve. Using the United States Supreme Court judges as an example of people in action, it is obvious that answering for truth and political correctness are two separate items. And in the case of political correctness, there are many variables, and many of those variables can be wrong. Too often politicians, like judges, are looking for a political correct answer. And that answer too often is found drifting on the wind. And because of this whimsical foundation, our politicians' answers need our attention. And sometimes their answer needs us to tell them, whoa! And whenever we need to tell them, whoa, it must be in such a way that it does not take 100 years to correct, or force us to start a new political party, or wait 4 years to throw them out, in the hope the next group will fix the mess. But with the present system, there is no guarantee. Tentatively, we have faith in the Supreme Court system. But these are the same type of people who belong to the same type of system worldwide that has put thousands of innocent people into prisons and left them without remedy, with only a lucky few finding a remedy that took years to acquire. Canada and the United States have many innocent convictions. Canada's David Milgaard and Michael Morton of the U.S., to mention just 2, each spent over 20 years in jail. Convert this thought to government, and you can see how much more important it is to ensure that every person has access to a safety valve. We don't all end up facing the justice system within our lifetime, but we do all face the political system every minute of our life, and we face it without a safety valve. This fact must end. The value vote ballot Part B committee regulations are based on much the same principle. But the big advantage to Part B over the Supreme Court, it is up to the people to decide if the committee's answer is correct. Not the justice system, not the letter of the law. Because as Mr. Bumble said in Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist, if the law supposes that, the law is an ass. How many times have you heard people say politics is an ass? If the people don't like the committee's decision, then during the next election, they can once again ask that the issue be restudied. This is better than the Supreme Court, because too often, once the Supreme Court has spoken, right or wrong, there is little anyone can do to change that verdict. This second asking by the people does not tie government into accepting the people's want on the issue, but forces the government to select a new committee, which in turn assigns a new set of judges to restudy the issue. Remember, we are always dealing with people and what influences people. Truth will set you free, they say, while political correctness, as you can see from previous examples like that of the Berlin Wall, can entrap and enslave for years or generations. Why do we believe, or act as if we believe by our support, that modern, well-educated democracy wants us to give free rein to those who make decisions politically, decisions that can improve or destroy our lives? This overtrust is not democracy. It is a fool's errand, and only those seeking power or holding on to power profit by keeping this warped system steering our democratic process. We have lives to live, and therefore cannot be involved daily in fixing democracy, nor should we have to be. We need to be involved, but not daily. We need a strong tool that will enable us to work with our democracy while spending most of our time and effort earning the tax base governments need and the wages which will support our families. Politics is necessary, but politics should not be the key to the cell containing human misery. The best tool to avoid this, the Barnes theory of voting with its value vote ballot. This method of voting has teeth which are big enough to correct that which we would normally spend years acting like dogs sitting on their master's porch, barking into the night at a phantom, because we are powerless to do anything except throw someone or some group out of office after they have acquired a big pension. This ridiculous practice makes our democracy a democracy based on frustration. This practice of having to throw politicians out of office rather than communicate to fix should no more be accepted as good government than we would accept as good family relations throwing out a wife, husband, or child simply because they would not communicate or dent a defender. Demand your country, state, or province adopt the Barnes theory of voting. Demand a voice in your future. Thank you for listening. Bill Barnes, developer of the Barnes theory of voting and designer of the value vote ballot. Click to share this in your circles. Help change the world's deteriorating democracies. Have a great day. And congratulations to Canada and the US for the birthdays they celebrated this week.